Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Beware the Board, a horror podcast. We watch a randomly selected horror movie every single week. I'm Bob.
I'm Ben.
Ben, we did it. It's season
12.
12?
It's 12, yeah.
Holy shit. Man, we've come so far.
Yeah.
And we've learned absolutely nothing.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
We learned that you like horror movies now.
Well, okay, I guess
That is
we've
knowledge.
learned one thing. We've learned one thing, that I actually enjoy horror movies.
The more you know.
I know.
Anyways, you got any news this week?
I don't think so. I think
right.
I'm news free, which is kind of weird to say, but you know.
It happens, I guess. See, this is our first episode recording since Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So did you do any Black Friday sales?
No, absolutely not.
There's a bunch of stuff going on.
I'm a little too broke for that.
That's fair. It coincided with like this new season, so I basically got all the movies on.
Oh, that's
Black
really
Friday
nice
sale,
though.
So it was really good.
Did you do any Black Friday shopping besides movies?
No.
Oh, okay, well.
I did the important thing first.
The important thing, buying movies for this
For
podcast.
me.
Yeah.
But there's always great stuff. Most of like the boutique like Blu-ray companies do stuff. So Vinegar Syndrome, Arrow, stuff like that. But also if you go to Barnes & Noble, like all their stuff through, I think the 2 or 3 weeks around Thanksgiving is all 30 to 50% off Blu-rays.
No, I was at the mall yesterday because my girlfriend dragged me to the mall. And there were some crazy deals going on in the mall. I was like, why? Like, I thought that Black Friday deals were exclusively Black Friday, but I also don't go to the mall, like, ever.
That's because our mall is dying.
Yeah, so just insane deals at the mall. I was like, because we were walking around and we were because I was trying to find her Christmas presents, because I haven't bought her anything yet, because I'm very bad at planning, but also I don't know what she wants, and she won't tell me. She just keeps going, figure it out. Thank you. That's so helpful, bro. There were lots of really good movie deals, because we went into, like, FYE, and they had, like, a whole section of Blu-rays that was all, like, 50% off. Now, I don't know how good the movies were, what movies were there, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
maybe you'll find something.
No, it's a thing. Probably a little too late at this point if you are listening now, but you can still check.
Oh, yeah,
some
that's
of those
fair.
sales go up till Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
In either case, that's all I have. So I guess podcast part of the podcast.
Sure.
Okay, so since it's the beginning of the season
Oh
and I
my
get yelled
God.
at, we're gonna do a brief
Yeah, I don't
explanation.
yell at you. I've never once yelled at you.
That is a bold-faced lie.
What are you talking? Maybe I've gotten a little stern and
You've definitely.
I've never
yelled.
yelled.
Bob.
I've raised my voice.
Bob, we used to work together.
I've. Okay.
You're a lying liar who lies.
Fair enough.
Okay.
But the yelling there was not of my own volition. It was because we worked in a building with a bunch of loud machines, and I was yelling because I had to.
You can specify all you want.
I'm just saying.
There's that time we almost died, though.
Okay, well, the 2 times we almost died. Number 1 was entirely our fault.
That is true.
The second one, not our fault at all.
All right. Sorry for that little aside. I'm supposed to explain the podcast at the beginning of the season because you might be tuning in for your first season now.
Yeah.
So how this works is we have a board, hence the Beware the Board title, that helps us choose movies. It's 3 categories, each category having 3 spots. And in each of those spots, I usually put a movie or 2, depending on how I'm feeling. Now, the categories are done by, like, genre, horror movie genre, that me and Bob select at the end of the last season, so on the wrap-up episode. And then we have a random that we choose on that same episode that's drawn from, like, a list we have. Now, our categories this season, for season 12, are Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. That's mine.
Which I think is insane, by the way. I edited the episode, the wrap-up or whatever, and in that episode, I sounded surprised. Bob now is floored. Bob does not... I'm talking about myself with a third person now. I don't know what to expect. I'm scared of this category, Ben.
Big hulking muscles.
Yeah, okay, fair. It's sure.
And
but
maybe
like,
some roid rage.
Yikes. I'm excited about this category because the only horror movie I could think of, and I said this on the wrap-up, was Predator. Like, that's the only Arnold Schwarzenegger horror movie. So I'm excited about that one.
All right, and then we have our random, which was vampires.
Oh, so excited for that one.
And Bob's category this season, which was also chosen by me, apparently, because he couldn't decide, is clowns.
Clowns. I'm excited about clowns.
So, What do you want to start with this season?
See, this is the first season in a long time where I'm actually very excited about every category. I'm hyped, man. This is gonna be fun.
You want to start with clowns?
Oh, no. So here's the thing. Clowns is definitely gonna be the one that scares me the most.
No, I know. So here's my suggestion: we start with clowns. Then we've knocked one off the board. Then you only have 2 left for the rest of the season. So if you really don't like it, you can put it off for a while. Because it's just gonna get worse the more you put it off.
I know, but like, do I want to start a little more lighthearted and pick Arnold Schwarzenegger and hope that we get something fun?
Not all the clown movies are bad.
Well, okay, I know one of them is probably.
Some of them you're probably gonna have a great time with.
That's what I'm thinking too. Okay, yeah. I'll listen. I'll tell you. We'll do clowns.
Are we rolling the dice?
Yeah, we'll do clowns. We'll do clowns and hope I don't get the absolute shit scared out of me.
Some of them might be bad.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm very scared.
Yeah, it's a pretty stacked season, though, I'll say.
I'm excited about this.
I'm excited about pretty much all the movies.
Okay. I have all 3 spots, Ben. Fuck.
Yeah. Which one you want? 1, 2, or 3?
3. What's in clowns spot 3?
Are you sure?
Fuck you, Ben. Fuck you. If this is what I think it is, and okay, I'm gonna ask right now. Does this have 2 movies in it?
No.
Oh, okay, fine. Let's go. I thought you were saying that because there were 2 movies in this category, and it was gonna be a long one.
No.
Or in the spot, I mean. But
Today,
well, yeah.
we're watching a movie that features clowns, I think pretty heavily, which was my justification for putting on here. It's Hell House LLC.
We're watching Hell House LLC
from 2015.
This is a movie we've talked about a lot.
We've talked about it once or twice. I think it keeps coming up because they've made a bunch of sequels at this point. And it's a found footage movie, which kind of cool to put on here because I don't want to do too many more found footage categories for a while. So getting to throw a movie on there anyways is always pretty cool.
Cool.
I'm going to let you know right now, this is the movie on the clown list that I think is going to make you shit your pants the most.
That's what I thought. I've heard this movie's like really, really, really scary.
That's why I went, are you sure?
Fuck.
In either case, description, what exactly happened that night?
I don't know, Ben.
Well, that's what we're about to find out.
Sweet.
In this 1 hour and 33-minute long movie.
A normal length movie.
Yeah, it's pretty short. It's not rated
Oh, thank God.
because they didn't pay for a rating. As for review scores, I'm doing something a little bit new this season.
Oh?
I've added Metacritic scores.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So IMDb gave it a 6.4 out of 10, tomato meter of 70%, an audience score of 72%, and there's no Metascore or user score. It didn't have a page on their website.
I love that. I like that you said I'm adding a new thing and then going, I don't have the thing, though.
I looked.
We tried.
My notes say not applicable. For awards, it has 0 wins and 0 nominations. All right, for actors, we have Ryan Jennifer Jones as Sarah Havel. She played Mean Girl Kim in Friends and Romans. Danny Bellini as Alex Taylor. He was a mechanic in The Drifter. Gore Abrams, who has the greatest first name for horror.
His dude's name is Gore Abrams.
Gore Abrams.
That's pretty sweet.
I assume that's his acting name. But
Probably.
he's playing Paul O'Keefe, and he was Oliver in The Substance. You know, that new movie?
I've not seen that movie, but I've heard it is fucking horrific.
I know you hadn't seen it. That is not... It's a body horror movie.
I know.
It's
That's
not
what I'm saying.
your jam. Jared Hacker as Tony Prescott. He played Owen Wilson in Owen Wilson Dates Himself, which was a short from 2017.
Okay.
It's about Owen Wilson
Yeah.
dating the person he knows best,
Himself.
Owen Wilson.
Mm.
Adam Schneider as Andrew McNamara. He was Young Husband and Dark Skies. Alice Balk as Diana Graves. She was Candace from Knight in Shining Suit on 68 episodes in 2024. Phil Hess as Joey. Haven't been in anything else for acting. Lauren A. Kennedy as Melissa. They were Irene in the TV movie The Dick. Jeb Krieger as Martin Cliver. They were a cop in Armageddon Time. And then finally, Miranda Robbins as Miranda Kelly. They were Dreamgirl's friend in Rise of the Fellowship. So a lot of smaller actors. I know a bunch of them did like non-acting stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like production stuff and stuff like that. Because again, it was a small indie film when it came out. We have the same person for a writer and director. That's Stephen Cognetti. So he's kind of in charge of this franchise. He really hasn't done any movies outside of the Hell House franchise, but he has done the sequels, so we'll get into those.
We'll get there. Add a new thing to our list of things we gotta finish.
Maybe. We'll decide what gets added to that list.
What are you talking about?
Well, it'll get added to the mega list.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll get added to the
smaller, more...
the smaller draw list.
Yeah.
Budget is unknown, and don't know the box office because it was direct to video.
Okay.
It looks like.
Didn't this stream on Shudder when it came out?
Yes, I'll get into that in a second. Country of origin, United States. Tagline. There was a couple. One of them was like a really long blurb, but this is the shorter one that I think was on the original posters. But New York's scariest haunted house tour.
Oh, it's one of these movies.
Ooh.
Okay. I see.
Okay, so the film premiered at the Telluride Horror Show in October 2015 before it released on a number of video-on-demand platforms. So that means Amazon Video, Shudder, like you said, YouTube, Vudu, and iTunes. And all that happened on November 1st, 2016. So pretty quick, like back-to-back release times.
No, that is fast.
Usually people tour a circuit for a while before they go to on-demand video kind of stuff. But this one did a pretty quick turnaround. I think part of the reason is how long this film was in production. So it looks like the film started like being kicked around in 2011.
God damn.
When one of the producers was kind of like looking for this idea for a film of like a haunted house. And it took them a couple years to settle on a script. So it looks like 2013 is when they decided on that. And then they didn't get it to actually casting until February 2014. And so from then to basically the day it released, they were working on it pretty actively.
That's
like actually
wild.
filming stuff was really quick, but cutting it, it looked like they were actually doing cutting almost to the day of its first public screening.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to make a movie, especially if you're a smaller group of people.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, this film has spawned a franchise, and it's pretty long at this point for what was essentially a small indie feature to begin with. The franchise currently consists of 3 sequels. So that's Hell House LLC 2, The Abaddon Hotel, Hell House LLC 3, Like a Fire, and finally Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor, which came out in 2023. So
I was about to say, that movie just came out.
Yeah. From what I could find, all those sequels are Shudder exclusives, which makes sense. I know it was pretty big when it first came out for Shudder. But there is apparently a 5th film currently in production.
Oh, sweet.
That's set to release in October 2025, so next year, which is pretty close. And it looks like that's currently titled Hell House LLC Lineage.
That's pretty rad.
See how many times you can say Hell House LLC when listing all those names.
Oh, my God.
In either case, that's all I have.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you this now. I don't think I'll need the bucket.
No.
Okay. That's what I thought. I was like, this movie probably isn't super gross, but it's probably pretty scary.
I'm glad you're wearing your beanie because you like to cover your eyes with it.
I haven't done that in probably over a year now. Okay? Bozo?
What movie were we watching last season where you started covering your eyes? And you got really mad at me.
That didn't happen. What are you talking about?
No, what movie was that? I can't remember.
Thanksgiving?
It was Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving.
It was Thanksgiving. Well, because there was a person being turkeyed.
You like turkey?
You like turkey? Fucking, that movie's gross.
Nice
I'd like that
tits,
movie,
bitch.
but that movie's a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, we'll see you guys in a minute. Hi everybody, welcome back. We just finished watching Hell House LLC.
Yeah, the 3 numbers. I mean, letters at the end are very important.
I was about to say, that really is an LLC.
Yeah.
Limited liability company.
It is.
They were held liable for none of that.
They were very limited liability.
I won't say 0 liability. Or maybe 100% liability, actually.
Well.
I mean, I think they're about as liable as they could have been.
Exactly. We'll get into that later. I guess the only question remaining is, what did you think, Bob? Did it scare you?
That movie's scary. I will say, it's cool. I don't know how much I actually, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that's completely fair. I think it's definitely one of those movies that's a bit slow. And
Fair.
It has some good atmosphere building in it that can, get you at times.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it's honestly kind of a so-so movie.
It's fine.
I've seen it a couple times now, and I'm just like, it's fine.
I will say I do think it has the benefit, for at least for me, of being the first time I've seen it, because I don't imagine this film has that much rewatch value. Like,
Yeah.
honestly.
It's not the best thing for rewatch, but you can see where everything lines up well.
Mhm. But I
That's
got
kinda
that
nice.
watching the movie for the first time anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I was catching it all, so it doesn't feel like I could get much more from a rewatch.
That's fair, but you do pay more attention than the average viewer.
So true.
In either case, I guess we're going to get into it. So, as always, we recommend you watch the film as blind as you can before, we talk about it, so you can watch the film without spoilers. Currently, it's basically available everywhere still. We watched it on Shudder, but I know it's on Amazon Prime, and I
Didn't
think
you
it's
say it
still
was
on
on
a bunch of
Amazon
other places.
Prime for free? Like, you could just watch it
Oh,
with
yeah,
ads?
Prime
Yeah.
is free. So, yeah, if you're thinking about checking it out, it's only like an hour and 30 minutes.
It's not bad.
It's worth a little watch. With that being said, I'm going to give the summary, and then we'll get into it. So this film is about Hell House LLC, so they're, like Bob said, a limited liability company that does haunted houses. And they're based out of New York, and I think the year before this, they'd done some work in Queens.
Mhm.
But this year, and I say this year, in 2009, they decided to move the company to Abaddon, which is like an area outside of New York. They set up this haunted house in this old hotel known as the Abaddon Hotel, and bad things happen on the opening night.
Yeah, things get bad.
And so the whole film is essentially a pseudo-documentary about the events of opening night and also, getting ready for opening since the company moved there because they had cameras going. That sounds interesting. Check it out.
No, it's cool.
Nice little watch. With that being said, we are going to get into spoilers now. So, anything you want to start with?
You can go first.
Okay.
Because I have a couple of things I want to talk about, but I think you'll get to them. And I don't want to start with what I'm going to say because it might be a hot take.
That's fair enough. Okay. Well, right off the bat, I think the thing that I want to talk about with this film is it is a mockumentary kind of film, which is not necessarily what I remember expecting when I first watched this movie.
No, I wasn't expecting it like that at all, for real.
I thought it was going to be a standard horror film, and it's not. It is a found footage film at its heart, but there is, talking head interviews that stand around everything else. And I think that's an interesting choice. This film came out in, 2015?
Yeah.
And that wasn't super popular yet. So I just think that was an interesting design choice, and I do think it adds to some of the, I don't want to say credibility, but some of the creepy aspects of this film.
No, I expected something like Grave Encounters when we started this film, which you sort of get, but not really, because what they do is something really cool, and they take a film format like something like Grave Encounters, which is a film that we watched a while ago on the podcast, but basically a bunch of ghost hunters go to a haunted location and record it. And that's the plot of the film. It gets spooky, scary, bad stuff happens. That's a cool format for a found footage film because it makes sense. It makes the found footage work in the context of the story without feeling forced. What they did here is they did a very similar thing by having the Hell House people set up in this way, but then also did a really interesting thing in setting all that up beforehand with all of these talking head interviews, this weird mockumentary sort of setup about the tragedy. And I think that you're totally right. It adds so much credibility. It makes all of the scary parts of the film so much scarier because it grounds it in a very real way that something like Grave Encounters doesn't.
Yeah, and I think the other really handy thing about that whole talking head kind of interview format it has around the main parts of the movie is that it really helps us get extra information about the background of the Abaddon Hotel that isn't from the characters, because not only did the characters not know this, but if they did, it would have been very just, I don't know, just feeding it to the audience if they said it.
It would have been exposition-y when I don't think it needs to be.
Yeah, and when you get it from a talking head guy who's supposed to know, it's not too bad.
No.
I mean, it's still the same kind of spoon-fed information, but at least it feels better in that format.
Well, I think the other thing it does is it also drags out the story a lot, which I think is a really good thing in this case because I think you said it, but this movie is an hour and a half, but it feels very slow. But all of that slowness is so needed because it needs to be... The plot of this film is that things happen bad on Halloween, on opening night for this place.
Which is Halloween night, I believe.
Is it Halloween night? I couldn't remember.
Something like that.
The beginning of this movie, where we get to the actual footage from the place is 46 days beforehand.
I'm glad you remembered 46. I was like, it's 40 something.
So it needs to take its time to build up to this like big thing at the end, right? But you can't just show footage of them fucking around in Hell House the whole time, because it would get boring too fast. You need to intersplice other stuff with it, and by giving this documentary format to it, you're giving us information we need for the story to work, while also breaking up the sections that are just Hell House stuff, which I think works really well in this format.
Yeah, and it is kind of nice, some of the Hell House stuff, because we get to see their like lives and how they're friends. In a lot of ways, it feels a lot like Paranormal Activity, where it has that same format of like ramping up as time goes by. I know we haven't watched that, but it's that same spiel where it's like, okay, hauntings are happening, but we can't have them all happen at once, so it escalates. And I think you're right with those whole interview format existing around the main story was also nice, because to be honest, sometimes it was a bit too much just watching them interact for over and over again.
Yeah, it's a little much.
20, 30 minutes at a time. And, you know, for all that we've talked about this whole mockumentary format being kind of nice, I will say there's one thing I didn't like about it.
Okay.
The thing I didn't like about the whole mockumentary style is that they kind of don't use it the best throughout the whole film.
True.
So they basically ended up using the mockumentary style really, really heavy in the first half of the film.
And I will say this right now. I think I like the front half better than the back half.
And I do too. And then about halfway through the film, they start transitioning more and more to like recovered video footage. Mm-hmm. By the back end of the film, it is all recovered video footage. I think, honestly,
like 90% of it.
90%. I would say 3/4 of the movie is like recovered footage, which means 3/4 of this movie isn't a mockumentary. It's straight up
found footage
film. And it goes on for so long, I'd forget that it was a mockumentary thing. And so I wish they would have just kind of committed to one or the other.
Yeah.
Because that,
I could see that.
The way they did it just feels kind of, I don't know, like half-formed. Like they went for one thing because it would work better with the script, but then they didn't commit all the way.
See, I think I'm kind of the opposite opinion for real. I think what they did was they did both things about 50% of the way there, right? Like both the ways that they tried to look at this film are all there. It works. But by combining them in the way that they did and giving us so much found footage stuff between the mockumentary pieces after you get through the beginning, I think it works, because then they bring all the mockumentary stuff back around at the end of the movie to like kind of bookend it. And I think that is sort of the perfect way to do it, because it allows for all this slow tension building at the beginning with the mockumentary stuff, and then you end that, and then you go to the actual like like found footage stuff. In the beginning of the found footage stuff is slow again. So once again, you're brought back down, you're slowed back down, you're given more time to get freaked out and get scared. And then by the end, you've gone through the whole like climax, I guess, of the end of the film. And then it cuts back to mockumentary stuff. And then you get like this nice little bow wrapped up on the end of it. And I think that works.
That's fair. And I think you're right about the bookend thing for this film. I just think there's just too much of a length of just found footage.
That's fair. I do agree. I think they could have broken it up more.
But I think it's a good idea that you brought up the whole like bookended thing this film does, because I think it's really, really cool.
I do really like it.
I don't want to get into too much of spoilers right now, but essentially what this film does is it starts with a lot of different recovered footage from the night of the events. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, you know, the stuff that's available to the public. And really all they have is this one video that was posted to YouTube of someone going through the haunted house, not really seeing anything, and then running out of it. And what I think this film does that is really, really cool is obviously we know that's coming up when we eventually are watching the recovered found footage part of this film. And when we eventually get to it, I'm pretty sure it was all done in like one take, because you can see the people from that YouTube video walking through the haunted house as we're watching footage from like the people who work there, who we've never seen footage from before. And everything really fits together really well.
It all lines up pretty okay, yeah.
And I thought that was a cool way to like start and end the film, with like seeing the event but not having the background information, and then seeing the event and getting all the context.
Because I think with all the context, the event becomes so much bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it feels so much more like of of something happening when at the beginning it feels so nothing. But I think that is such a good start to this movie because it instantly whets your palate for what you want to see. Because you're instantly hit with, okay, well, I didn't get to see anything, but something happened. What is it? Like, I want to know now. And that is such a good way to, like, really draw people in at the start of the film. And it works.
Yeah, and I think that requires a pretty good attention to detail, which I think is one of the things this film did decently well.
I think it's really good.
They basically drop a bunch of hints throughout the film, and they're just like little things that eventually come up again.
Yep.
And if you're paying enough attention, you can kind of figure out the ending of this film before it even happens. Not to mention, like, funny foreshadowing, which is also pretty fun to hear.
I'm going to say this right now. There's a line where someone goes, "We're going to fucking die on these stairs." I'm sorry, bro. You died on those fucking stairs. Like, good for you, dog. You knew.
With all that being said, I think the last big thing I want to mention before you can kind of get into your stuff is that, you know, this went down as a clown movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the story behind that's kind of interesting. So this film does feature a couple clowns.
At least 3.
There is 3 clown mannequins and
A clown man.
Joey,
Yeah.
who's this guy dressed as a clown. And to be honest, most of those don't get any scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Joey did freak out Bob when he was running through the set, fleeing in
True.
terror at the beginning of the film. But there is one clown that gets featured heavily.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this, I don't know, white, bald clown kind of dude.
Disgusting.
He looks kind of intimidating. And he's kind of like
I would say he's like the Spectre, you know?
Yeah, he's like the representation for the early parts of this haunt. So a lot of the early scares in this movie are that clown figurine, like, moving when someone's not looking. Or, very notably, they say the heads don't move, like they're stiff-necked, and they'll have the heads turn. And to be honest, I think they do a pretty effective job getting scares with what is essentially a mannequin.
No, it's really good. Like, genuinely really good.
And you're afraid of clowns. Did that clown guy freak you out?
Yeah, I think the only outtake we clipped was me almost shitting my pants because the clown looked at me.
Yeah, that's the first time he did it. There's a nice little sequence where we see the clown. He's standing straight. The camera moves off him and then moves back to him, and he's staring at the camera.
It's really scary.
And, you know, they got a couple of those, and I think it's really cool. But I will say my understanding of it is that they just chose that clown prop to do those gags with just 'cause. And
really?
They weren't, like, specifically setting out to have, like, oh, the creepy clown.
It works. It's good.
But it is kind of what the film is known for. And it's been a while since I've seen the other movies, but I think they do lean into that clown eventually. Because they're like, oh, that's what we're famous for.
Fuck that. That's scary.
Because it is a nice looking prop. It is pretty iconic. Doesn't look like anything too familiar as far as clowns goes. Like, it's not a Pennywise the clown.
No, I mean, it's similar to art, but, like, not really.
Yeah.
In, like, the black and white outfit.
In either case, did you have some stuff you wanted to talk about with this movie?
Okay, we can talk about a couple things. Because, like, look, I said at the beginning, I think this movie comes out to fine, but has a couple of things that are, like, excellent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
But because there are things that are excellent, that means that there have to be things that aren't great because it's fine. My not great things, I'm going to hit it right now. I think the acting is okay. I don't have a ton of issues with it. There are some scenes where some of it felt a little flat or like things were being overacted. And in a found footage film, you don't want that because it needs to feel real because it is found footage and that is the point.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, the actors felt like they were friends.
Yeah.
But especially for the high emotion parts of the film, it didn't really hit the right way.
Mm-hmm. Something was off.
That comes down to the fact that none of these actors are super famous, so that's to be expected. But I do think they sell at least the whole standard, like, everyday stuff pretty well.
I think all the everyday stuff is fine.
Characterization's also an interesting one.
Yeah, some of the characters are very interesting, and some of them aren't. And I think that is kind of an issue. Like,
yeah, there's only, like, 5 characters.
Yeah.
Because the whole, like, crew of Hell House is only 5 people, and then they hire extras who we barely interact with. So I don't really count those as, like, characters in the same way. But our main Hell House people, I didn't really feel like they were developed enough to latch onto.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
2 people that I think get any characterization are Paul and a little bit of Tony, and that's because they're the people doing
The camera work.
The camera work. Paul does it for the first half of the movie, and then Tony does it for the back half. And through their camera work, we get a glimpse into kind of how they're feeling and thinking about the situation, but they're still very two-dimensional.
Yeah.
I think Paul was the most in-depth character.
But it wasn't in-depth. It was very much like...
Like, I got a feel for who he was.
Yeah, but it wasn't a lot. It was very surface level.
Yeah, he was a very scummy character, but he was funny.
He was funny, but he was really shitty.
Yeah, and I do think that probably contributed to some of the issues with the acting you might have had.
Yeah,
As
that's
if
fair.
If you don't have characters that, like, feel really good, it's hard to have the acting feel really good when the person's playing that character.
That's fair. That was a small complaint. I have a really kind of big issue with this movie.
Okay.
And I don't know if I don't know if this is a hot take or not, because I don't know what the consensus on this film is from a general horror audience, and I'm sure you might know. I think the end of this movie kind of sucks. I don't like it. Not the very end, but the payoff in all the build up for the end of this movie. I would say the scene that the rest of the film like talks about, like, this is why people ran out of Hell
you mean
House.
what happens in...
Yes.
Okay.
It's very underwhelming.
So you like the ending,
Yes.
but you didn't like the events that happened that night.
Yes. The actual events in Hell House are mid.
I think that's fire. It's one of those things where this movie builds up to that the entire runtime. I think we get to see what happens in the basement, which is the thing the film's building up to, I don't know, for 50 minutes.
A long ass time.
It basically happens, I think, at the last
hour 10.
hour 10 that we see it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one of those things where it was never gonna, I think, measure up to
Which
what
I
you
think
were expecting.
sucks. Like, right, if you're spending all this time building up to a thing, and then the thing is underwhelming, it makes all of that build up not worth it. And that's what makes me mad about this film is, like, I want that basement scene to be, I want it to be blown
right?
away. I wanted to be, like, terrified, but it was fine. And then you get a much better ending about 40 minutes later.
It's not even 40 minutes.
It feels like 40
20
minutes.
minutes later.
20 minutes later, you get an actual good ending.
Yeah, and I mean, that's probably why they didn't use the basement scene as the actual ending for the film. But I think the thing we also have to remember is, first of all, it's a ghost film.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to have, like, very impactful scenes that aren't, like, jump scary, like in a ghost film. They can be done. We watched Ringu.
Yeah.
Great film. But it's hard to, like, have that same kind of impact easily. But I think the big thing that really kept the basement scene from being too much of a spectacle is, the format.
It doesn't look good.
It's trying to keep everything mysterious, and it's shot on, like, a phone or something from 2009, so it doesn't look great. But also, the budget on this film, I can't imagine was very high.
I can't either, but, like, what did they do with it?
I think they rented out this place, and they decorated it, and I think that's basically all the money they had.
I mean, it does look good. I will admit.
And so
it's a very cool-looking haunted house.
You know, I couldn't find any information on the budget. I can't imagine it's much, but I think they did a really good job with it. But it shows that they could really only afford, like, 1 or 2 suits.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so even though they stretch it really far, it does feel like a no-budget film. And I think that's the big reason that basement scene doesn't pay off, is it's like, I think they do a good job for the amount of money they had, but the combination of, like, okay, we were building it up the whole time, and we can't do too much with it, it's kind of hard.
Yeah. I think also my big issue is the basement scene is underwhelming. Yeah, I think it is fine, but it's not as good as I want it to be. But then all that tension that you've been building up through is released and gone because you've been expected to be, like, scared by the basement, and then there's no tension for the last scene.
Yeah, but
which is supposed to be the actual ending, right?
That's one of those things where they wanted you to feel like the movie was over, so the ending's more surprising. And I know you caught on to it before it happened.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people who view this movie for the first time wouldn't necessarily catch on to what was happening in that very end.
I guess.
And if you don't catch on to it, then the fact that there's no build up to it is great.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It felt like it was so much, like, good, and it was really good build up, and then we just kind of fell off the face of the earth at the end. And that is a cardinal sin of a film for me, is if the ending sucks, why am I watching it?
That's fair. And again, I think this is one of those films where the found footage part was a lot like Paranormal Activity, which does a very similar thing where it builds and it builds and it builds. But that film does have a very famously, like, impactful, shocking ending. And this film just didn't have that.
Yeah.
In its found footage section. I did think the actual ending was
The actual
pretty
ending is
decent.
good. The actual ending is actually extremely good because it's hinted at so far, early on in the movie.
In the mockumentary parts,
Yeah.
you can pick up stuff from the dialogue.
Yeah, and then it makes things that happen at the house make more sense too. Like
Yeah.
when you look at them,
It works.
it works. My whole point in this situation is I think the movie has a couple of really good things and a couple of really bad things, which makes it an okay movie, which kind of sucks.
Fair enough, but I don't think it was a bad way to start the season.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I will say that I like this movie. I personally am a fan. I want to show this movie to my girlfriend,
She could probably watch it.
That's what I was thinking.
It's not like
and I think
gory
it
at
would
all.
scare the piss out of her.
Well, show her at your own risk.
Yeah, well, we'll see how quickly I get a black eye or something.
Do you have anything else to talk about with this movie?
I don't think I have.
All
any.
right, then before we go, I'm going to mention this.
Okay.
There is sequels to this film,
Oh yeah.
and I told this to Bob before I think we put on the movie. I was like, I thought about doing multiple movies in this spot. And that's because Hell House 2 and then Hell House 3 go together really, really well.
Ah, okay.
They're like, the way I've heard them described is like they are one movie that is kind of split into 3 parts.
That's sweet.
Not literally, but it's
Yeah.
it's basically dealing with very similar stuff happening and building one big picture.
Oh, that's so cool.
Now, that does give the big complaint that I think a lot of people have with this franchise in that it sometimes over-explains stuff. But I do think that is something to look forward to, especially if you had some issues with this not having a great build-up.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the sequels had more money, so they have more to build up to, especially over like a couple films.
Well, it's the same director and writer, right?
Yeah.
And he's really the beginning is really good. So if he could just fix the ending, I think he could make some pretty great stuff.
Fair enough. I do think he's the guy holding the camera in the YouTube video. If I
Are you
remember
serious?
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think you do get to see him for a bit. And then obviously the 4th film is like unrelated. I think it's like a prequel.
I was about to say, I'm pretty
kinda
sure
thing.
it's a prequel, right?
Yeah. Anyways, that's all I got. So do you want to give it a recommendation?
Sure. If you like found footage movies, I think this is a cool one. It is a cool one. I didn't talk about it. I think the cinematography in this film is fucking good. Like, really good. Because it gives Wreck vibes in certain ways with the way that the dude holding the camera, whether it's Paul or Tony, they're really good about slow panning around every corner and dragging it out and making it terrifying.
Yeah, I think you could really feel like those characters are actually holding the camera
Mhm.
and that they're scared out of their mind.
And it works. It adds so much atmosphere to the movie, and it's so good. So if you like found footage, that's my first one. It's good. If you like the idea of a haunted house scary movie, this is way better than the other haunted house scary movie we watched on the podcast.
Haunt back in season 1.
Haunt back in season 1. That movie is not good.
I like the guy who just looked like a sperm.
I'm pretty sure that's the thumbnail, isn't
Big little
it?
ghost.
That's so funny. Yeah, I really don't have it. That's kind of it for real.
Okay. I think the ones you gave are pretty decent. If you like found footage films or the idea of anything set in a haunted house, I think this is right up your alley. There's not really many films that combine both of those, let alone films that are set in a haunted house attraction. Tons of stuff set in an actual haunted house.
Yeah, for sure.
Having it set in the attraction is a little bit different. Aside from that, I think if you just want to get into the Hell House LLC franchise, this is a good place to start. It's a nice little popcorn flick. It's not the best watch ever, but I do think it is worth a watch. It's an okay movie, and there's a couple films in that franchise now, and if you can get one of them because you have Shudder, well then they're like all free, so might as well check them out. That being said, rate it.
I like this film. I think it's fun. I think it's pretty scary.
I could tell you thought it was pretty scary.
So I will give it some credence there. But I do have a couple of issues. I think the build up to the basement scene sucks. I think it's not very good.
Well, it's effective build-up.
It's effective. Oh yeah, sorry.
The payoff is
The
bad.
payoff is awful. The build up is incredible. I think the actual ending is really good. So that kind of counters each other. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really losing anything there. I think the acting's fine. I will say, I didn't mention it. I think there are a couple of scenes that just don't need to exist.
Well, there's definitely padding in there.
Well, there's a scene just in a field.
Yeah.
And I don't like that scene. I think it feels weird. Like, why are we here? Why is he just sitting with the camera? That feels like a scene that they put in to pad runtime, or because they needed
They needed some explanation for why these people weren't leaving.
yeah. But it's like shot like a real movie. Like, they've set the camera up. They're in like a really beautiful field. There's like wind running through the grass. It's really pretty.
It looks nice.
It looks nice, but it's like, why is this? Go send me somewhere else. This doesn't feel. It doesn't fit.
I
Right?
want to be in this asbestos-ridden hotel.
Yes, please. That's where I want to be. So there's also issues with that. And so I'm in just a weird spot because I do enjoy the film. So I think I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Okay.
And I think that's fair.
I'm in a spot because I've seen this film a couple times.
Yeah.
So I don't have the benefit of watching this for the first time and like experiencing it as something new. It's pretty old hat for me now. And I think the only benefit is maybe catching some of those like very obvious lines that imply something later in the film. And that's kind of cool, but there's not enough in this movie to make like tons and tons of rewatches very fun.
That's fair.
However, the general like attention to detail in the script is fairly impressive. And so while I think I'm kind of only so on this film, I think just for like how tightly it's done, I'll give it a 3.
That's fair. I think the extra half point was because of how scary it was.
For you?
Yeah, I think because I'm going to be honest, there are no outtakes because I was actually sitting in my chair scared out of my mind.
Yeah, it was very tense.
At one point I was actually shaking. The movie's scary. I will applaud it for that. So it gets the half point.
All right. Well, if that's all, I guess we're going to go to I'm just guessing. We're going to go to the outro.
Probably. But there might be that one outtake might be funny.
It wasn't good.
Well, we marked it.
Well, we'll see you in a second.
We'll see you guys in a minute. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the outtakes, maybe. Ben, do we have any announcements?
We have a Christmas episode coming up soon.
We do. Yeah.
Not next week or the week after, but it's sometime during that week.
Yep.
Anyways, that's coming up, and then we have
New Year's
stuff at the end of the month. So that is kind of some outside our normal stuff to look forward to. I would like to remind you we're also doing the franchise of
The Evil Dead.
Evil Dead.
At some point.
At some point.
We're hoping to record those in January because we're going to be done with all the holiday content.
Yeah. We've had some issues with scheduling recently, so we were supposed to start those already.
I'm really glad that you said issues instead of putting either of us on blast because it's both our faults.
It's been a mix. In either case, those will probably hopefully come out January or February.
Oh, and in February we got Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we have stuff coming up. Otherwise, usual spiel. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're checking us out on any podcasting platform, please give us a quick rating or review. That really helps us out getting seen by other people there. You could also recommend us to a friend if you really want to help us out. That's probably the best way to get the podcast out there. Word of mouth after an episode drops, like opening night kind of thing.
That was a good one.
Speaking of which,
Don't say it.
Spotify
Oh, yeah. What about it?
did their year in
Spotify
review
Wrapped!
thing. Yeah,
Oh,
their
hold
Spotify
on.
Wrapped.
Do you want to look at it?
I already looked at mine.
Do you want to? Will you look at ours? The
Can you guess
podcast?
what podcast was at the top of my most listened podcast list?
Was it our podcast?
It was this one because I have to
Mine
listen
was not our
to
podcast.
every episode for issues. Outside of that, the other big place to check us out is YouTube. Well, not the best for audio-only content. It is really nice for showing us some support. We can see your likes and subscriptions, views, which are all really good ways to show us how many people are interacting with this content, which we really appreciate because it gives us a lot of motivation to keep doing this. Otherwise, YouTube does have a couple cool tools you might like checking out. There's a search button on our channel, which lets you search key terms in all our videos. So if you want to know if we've covered a specific movie, that's probably the easiest way to do that. And there's also a bell button, which to get notified whenever we post something new. So in case we're posting something out of our usual format, I don't know, a Christmas episode, that's an easy way to get notified because Bob isn't always the best about notifying about things.
No, I'm very bad at it, in fact.
With that being said, the big thing about YouTube is it's one of the two major places to communicate with us at. You can do that in the comment section of a specific video if there's something you want to talk to us about in that episode, or you can go over to Twitter at @BewareTheBoard and go talk to Bob. Maybe send him some clown gifts.
Nope. Please don't do that.
Or tell him about some abandoned buildings that maybe some cult stuff happened in.
Maybe.
Back in the 80s.
Like Ben said, check us out on Twitter at @BewareTheBoard. It's where we post updates about the show, information about the show. Basically, if there's anything you want about the show, it goes on our Twitter. On Mondays, I post a spoiler post for that week's worth of episodes, which is a hidden movie cover you can reveal, so you can watch the film before we do. So whenever you listen to the episode, you don't get any spoilers or being vague about stuff, you know what we're talking about. Then on Fridays or whatever other day an episode goes live, I always post a link to the episode on our Twitter. So if you've missed an upload or want to know someone up, there's always a link there. Last thing, we make short form content for the show over on @BewareTheBoard on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts. So if you like short form content and want to support the show, check us out over @BewareTheBoard on YouTube and on TikTok @BewareTheBoard as well.
Speaking
Stop.
Bob hasn't posted those memes yet.
No, you're right.
You said you were going to do it on Thanksgiving. I gave you the benefit of the doubt on that episode and the following episode, which I think was the wrap-up, where I was like, I'm sure Bob posted it last season.
I'm sorry. That's it. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, we'll
But
be
also,
here next week.
hold on. No, now I'm mad.
We'll be here next week. Hopefully, Bob will have posted those.
I told you, you have access to the thing.
I don't know what it is.
I sent it to you. You have it.
I still don't know what it is.
I'm going to send it to you again.
Anyways, check you guys out next time.
Yeah,
We're probably doing a different category. So,
Oh, yeah, for sure. It might be Arnie. I don't know. I'm kind of excited about Arnold.
you got Arnie and Vamps.
Oh, vampires are good too, though. I don't know. Well, see you guys next time.
See you next time.